I'm giving Vandy too much credit.
Yeah, come on. No, keep it coming, though. Keep it coming.
This is not normal. Like, you need to go to the hospital. And being a stubborn athlete, I called my coach. We had rescheduled my wedding because my wedding was originally on regional weekend that year. And I was like, look, I made regionals. Like, can we reschedule the wedding? So my mom, my mother-in-law, and my wife, you think you should do it. I don't know. I graduated, so I can say whatever I want now, but like...
Yeah.
Hello and welcome. My name is Andrew East, and this is a show that we've been hosting for over a year now, and it's a show where we sit down with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, really anybody who has experienced a significant change in life. I call these changes redirections, and I think when we take a step back, we realize that everybody goes through huge pivots in life, whether they're ready for them or not. And so my goal here is to sit down and hear stories of people who have dealt with these changes well, in hopes that I personally can learn and maybe you take something away as well. So today I'm really excited to be having a conversation with Will Moorad. If you guys don't know, I'm a CrossFit geek. I love it. And the CrossFit Open just ended. I'm not super proud of my performance, but Will is a guy who has made the CrossFit Games multiple times and has an awesome story. He's going to tell us about how he played Division I soccer and then tell us about how he stumbled into the sport of CrossFit. And then he's also going to tell us about why he quit CrossFit after experiencing huge success to work a corporate job and then ended up getting back into CrossFit after all that. So it's an awesome story. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. If you guys want to find out more about Will, you can find his social links down below. If you guys haven't yet, I would love it and be honored if you could like this show and subscribe to it on whatever platform you're listening to. And without further ado, let's get into this one with Will Moorad.
Will, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
We have a mutual friend in Noah Olson who is also on the show. And do I have it correct that he calls you Silly Willy? Is that your nickname? Is that what it is?
He has a lot of nicknames for everybody. That's probably one of them. I can't think of any other ones right off the bat, but yeah.
I was watching a YouTube video where you guys were doing like a row swim thing, and it was Silly Willy, like working out with Silly Willy. But,
yeah. He calls people all sorts of funny things. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming to the studio here live from the house, man. But a local Nashville guy, so that's fun. But you just got back from the games.
Yep, just got back
and crushed it. Congratulations on your success. Like really fun to watch.
It was a good year.
I would love to start. I want to dive into 2019 games, but would love to start just to hear about your upbringing. Like, do you have siblings? You're a soccer player. Talk to us about that, and we'll just.
Yeah. So upbringing. Here, let me do this so I'm not looking out the window.
There you go. Okay.
Do you care? Does it matter?
No, that works.
Look at that. Yeah. So I grew up in Brentwood. Mom, dad, older brother, older sister, golden retriever. You know, suburban nice. Brentwood, man. I grew up, I was the youngest, playing sports my whole life. I went to Ravenwood High School, which we just chatted about a little bit, and then I went to Belmont University where I played soccer.
That's like a big-time soccer school, dude. And you guys,
I mean,
that's D1.
It's D1. I mean, I wouldn't compare it to Vanderbilt for football. I'd say it's like mid-major.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like going to Virginia or like a big ACC school for soccer, like a big SEC school for football. Maybe I'm giving Vandy too much credit.
Yeah, come on. Keep it coming.
But yeah, so played soccer growing up. My family was very athletic. My dad played pro soccer for a period of time. My brother was a Division I soccer player at Belmont also. My sister was a collegiate cheerleader, like the flyer, does all the spins and
Crazy.
Stuff. So really athletic family. So I grew up with playing sports, and that kind of like rolled me right into CrossFit, like being able to just adapt to whatever task they're throwing at you.
Yeah, sure.
Just kind of grew up doing work around the house, playing sports with all my friends. I focused on soccer, but I would always, like, I had football player friends, basketball player friends, baseball player friends, lacrosse, right? You do everything.
Yeah.
So you kind of build this huge base of athleticism and just ability to adapt to whatever your friends are doing, which you probably had a similar upbringing. Most guys that played like sports growing up can kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal upbringing, you know?
No, but bro, you got a full ride scholarship to Belmont to play soccer.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of chatting about IMG. You went down there for your first 3 years of high school?
No, just my junior year. So I went to K through sophomore year.
Yeah.
In Williamson County.
Yeah.
And then one of my good buddies had just moved to Nashville. He turned into a good buddy, but a guy I was playing soccer with just moved to Nashville, was on Team USA, the U18 national team for soccer. And the national team was like, hey, the level of soccer is good in Nashville, but we want you to be in an environment where you're still developing, because he was going to go on to be a professional, right? And that's just kind of how his story went. But he got recruited to IMG. He was down there for maybe 2 months, and the coach, they needed like a left winger. And he was like, hey, coach, my buddy back in Nashville is like a left winger. You should bring him in for a tryout. So I'm like 16.
Way.
They flew me down to Bradenton for a weekend. We just scrimmaged. I trained with the team, all that stuff. It went well. Tom Durkin, who's no longer with IMG, I think he started another academy, but he was the director of the soccer academy at the time, had a meeting with my parents and myself and said, look, we'll take care of everything. He can come live here. He can be roommates with my friend Blair Gavin, who now coaches in the USL.
Wow.
But he had a pretty successful career in the MLS. Roommates with him. So the next week, I went from being like a regular junior in high school, living in Brentwood, like I was like a month into my junior year, to like pack up. You're living in Bradenton, Florida.
Jeez.
And it's kind of like being a pro athlete, except for you have to go to class.
Yeah.
Like,
so for those who don't know what IMG is, it is like the elite boarding school essentially for like any sport. Like if you go to IMG, you're on the fast track to professional sports.
yeah, I call it like Hogwarts for athletes. Like everybody there is just so gifted and so talented, and you're just surrounded by, doesn't matter what discipline of sport you're in, everybody has the same mindset. And it was a really cool experience for me. And it's international too. It's not like just a bunch of American kids. Like I went to class with this kid who was like the best youth tennis player in the world, like U16.
Dang.
That was one of my favorite memories. I got to skip class because he was scrimmaging Maria Sharapova.
What?
And like the tennis court was right next to my school, right? Like we was all on the campus. So I literally like walked 10 yards over. I was like, hey, can I skip? Like my buddy's playing Maria, and Maria is like a god down there, right?
Yeah.
And my teacher was like, of course. So that was so surreal.
So really heavy emphasis on academics, yeah. Just
we studied from 9 to 5, and so IMG was really cool. And they do a good job, at least for me, in developing the focus and the intensity necessary to, if you're aspiring to be a professional athlete. And it's not like everybody in the world everybody who goes to IMG like makes the cut.
Sure.
But they do a really good job of kind of helping you understand what exactly that takes at a very young age, which it's invaluable. Like I couldn't have gotten that here.
Yeah.
Mostly because I just didn't have the mentorship, where it's forced on you there. Like guys have already done it. So that was really cool. And I think I've kind of brought that into this career a little bit.
Did you have aspirations to be a professional soccer player?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it. Like when I said I left after my junior year, unfortunately. Like looking back, obviously everything worked out. I married my high school sweetheart. I ended up, getting a full ride, and it sounds great, and it is great. But as far as like just a soccer trajectory goes, being completely objective, it probably would have been better to stay there and not come back.
You think you could have made it?
Yeah. I mean, I had a shot even when I left. Like I went to the USL. I went to the USL Combine, which is like the minor leagues for the MLS. Like Nashville has a USL team now.
Right.
I went to preseason with 2 teams. Like I kind of did it.
With biceps like those.
I was a lot smaller.
Okay.
I was probably 20 pounds.
Yeah.
20 pounds ago. But yeah, I mean, I had a shot, but it's just different. After I left IMG, I was never, for the rest of my career, even in the USL, surrounded by such talent.
Wow.
Like there was like 7 guys from my high school team that went to play my IMG team that played pro. Like
that's crazy.
We probably would have beat the USL teams I was scrimmaging with.
Jeez.
So I left, and that's kind of like obviously like my life has gone on and I learned a lot from it. But for soccer, it probably would have been better to see it out, stay my senior year, maybe get a shot to jump right into the pros, or maybe, go to a bigger school like a Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that's right. The best school.
My wife was a dancer at Vandy.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. For 2 years. I just remembered that.
No way.
Yeah. So she went to Belmont, but they let Belmont girls be on the dance team for Vandy.
That's crazy. I probably know her.
Yeah.
Oh.
Moorad now.
Yeah.
Cassandra Global at the time. Yeah. So, but whatever. CrossFit ended up being pretty good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is interesting. I went to high school in Indiana, and there's no spring football in Indiana. And down in Tennessee, you could play football in the fall, and then there's like the spring practice at least. Some states do it year round. But I think about the advantage that you had going to IMG and being around that competitive environment year round is so you have these guys that come out of high school, and for football at least, they'll show up to college and the coaching's way better, the competition, the people you're surrounded with is way better, and they just they go from a 2 out of 5 decent athlete to like a second round draft pick. Jordan Matthews was a buddy of mine that we came out with, and just like the coaching and the environment you're around can make such a difference in your development as an athlete, in business, whatever it is. But it sounded like definitely that was the case at IMG.
Yeah, I mean, like the structure at IMG was very much like I assume a big university would have it. At Belmont, we didn't have such a structured athletic program.
Really?
Maybe the basketball team is like the one thing that probably had it dialed in.
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play basketball, and that's like kind of Belmont's thing is the basketball team. But I assume like at SEC schools for football, college football, you have class. It's all scheduled around the sport, not vice versa. Whereas I felt like a lot of the time, there's nothing wrong with this, but at Belmont, it wasn't about developing you to become a professional soccer player. It's student athlete.
Yeah.
And coming from IMG, it was athlete student. And
right.
That's totally important. Getting your education is amazing. You have to do it. Or you think you should do it. I don't know. I graduated, so I can say whatever I want now. But like, it could be done a little bit better at smaller schools, I think. But we could really dive into like NCAA and the money and all that stuff. We don't have to do that.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
But I didn't get to really utilize maybe the athlete-driven focus as much at a Belmont as I could have if I went to like an Akron or something, a big team at the time, where if you're pushing for a national championship, the focus is to win the national championship, maybe not like make sure you get to all your labs or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's tough because like a lot of the guys, there's only one team that wins a national championship, so like it's taking a risk, a gamble if you're the university to be like, hey, the priority is soccer, not school.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm not discounting school by any means. But we're talking about kind of the athlete mind and how that works, and being a very successful student and being in a really, really high achieving athlete. It's hard to mesh that. And the way I always kind of wanted to push the athletic side of things and like go to class and get good grades, but it was never like I will have to get a 4.0. Yeah. Like it just wasn't my priority. And maybe it's not right or wrong. It just wasn't who I am.
You're a meathead.
Yeah, like come on.
I'm kidding.
Come on. So
I'm kidding.
I just like to train, and I like to be at practice, and learning the craft and becoming a pro in sport is like getting your master's degree or doctorate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. It just takes the same level of intensity.
Yeah.
You play in the NFL a little bit, the dedication, learning the playbooks, learning the nuances to different defenses and all these things. It's like getting a master's degree because you're making split-second decisions. You know what I mean? So it's like becoming a student of the game, as cheesy as that sounds. So kind of coming full circle, the appreciation for those intricacies in sport is kind of what I learned at IMG, where I didn't really think about sport that in depth before I went there. Yeah. I was just kind of like good at soccer, and I got a shot, and I was gifted that opportunity to learn. So Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that I apply daily now, and I coach people too. So I kind of try and push that onto them. Just the appreciation for the little things and how much it can make a difference in your performance. Yeah, IMG did that. There's my plug for IMG.
Yeah. That's pretty solid. Do we get paid for that?
Yeah, right.
So in 2011, you started CrossFit.
Yeah.
One of your buddies told you about it, and you were playing soccer at Belmont, and I believe the drive was just to be the fittest guy. I mean, soccer is such a fitness-oriented sport.
Yeah.
You have to be in such good conditioning. And you did the Open that first year too?
So I first got a taste of CrossFit in like 2008.
Okay.
That's when like the movie 300 came out. I just gotten my scholarship to Belmont. Like a couple of my buddies got scholarships for football, and we were all working out, like getting ready for college. We're like, what is this? Like, these guys are super jacked. Like, they must be good, right? So we like Googled their workout plan, and CrossFit showed up. Mm-hmm. So we were sports specific athletes, but we'd use CrossFit methodologies like Cindy and like just doing a bunch of push-ups and pull-ups and air squats for time to supplement what we were doing as like football players or soccer players or basketball players. So that's kind of when it started. And then after my Belmont career kind of finished, and I left school actually my junior year, after my senior year at Belmont, and went to the USL Combine, took like a semester off, did the whole preseason thing. That didn't pan out. So I went back to school to finish my degree, because stay in school. And I did. I finished my degree in exercise science, and I, as a way to earn my scholarship back, I was working in the weight room, like coaching the basketball team a little bit, the baseball team, the soccer team, just taking them through strength and conditioning. Yeah. Which is like awesome. And I started doing CrossFit as a sport then, like exploring it, because I knew about the CrossFit Games. I knew about like Rich Froning and Chris Spieler and these guys who were like all-stars in the sport, but I didn't really aspire to make money off of it. I was just like, I'm going to do this while I'm in school because I like to work out, and it kind of replaced the soccer void, which was like 24/7, right? So I started doing it there, and then this was 2013.
Gotcha.
So 2013, I made regionals, and I finished 11th. I think I finished 11th, and this was like Central East region, which was Rich, Scott Panchik. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these names. But...
Yeah, bro. I'm obsessed with it.
Okay, cool. So like Graham Holmberg, Marcus Hendren, Nicky Rankar, like all these guys who were household names more or less, even in CrossFit's infancy, which is like 2013. It was a very young sport still. I was competing next to them, and I was kind of like, like I'm 11th. I didn't make the games that year, but I'd only been doing it competitively for like 6 months. Yeah. I was like, maybe I have a shot. So the whole next year I dedicated, like I worked full time at CrossFit Talon, which is in Franklin, as a coach, trained full time. And I was still living with my mom. So I was like saving all my money because I'd just gotten engaged to my wife. So 2014 season rolled around, and I ended up qualifying for the CrossFit Games, which was just like, like, oh man, this is so like we did it. Like it actually could happen, and I didn't realize how much that would shape my life moving forward. I was just kind of, it's like sports. Like I made varsity. Okay, now I get to play. Oh, I scored a couple touchdowns. Now I got a scholarship. Like it just kind of happened naturally. Kind of like the rest of my sports career had. It just kind of like natural progression, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But ended up making the games, and that set me up to have a career in the sport.
So did you have that perspective of like you didn't realize what it was going to be? Because, I mean, 2014, I don't know when I guess it was maybe like 2012 when CrossFit kind of got mainstream. You know, it was on ESPN one of those years. Was it, how many professional CrossFitters were there in 2014? You know what I'm saying?
So here's a funny story. So I guess Rich is probably the best example. Yeah. Right. He's made a great living off the sport. So going into Sunday at the regionals, I was in position to make the games, and we had to like get our arm length measured for the ring dips in a workout that we had on Sunday. And I was standing there with like Rich and a couple of other guys because we were all kind of in the same heat all weekend. So you get to know those guys a little bit. And I was still a new guy, right? And I'm sitting there, and we had rescheduled my wedding because my wedding was originally on regional weekend that year. And I was like, look, I made regionals. Like, can we reschedule the wedding? So my mom, my mother-in-law, and my wife, and my sister-in-law, I think she was involved too, rescheduled the whole wedding. And it was a destination wedding. We were down at Rosemary Beach. Like,
oh, man.
It's a big deal. And they rescheduled the whole thing. So I'm sitting there talking to Rich, and I'm like, man, I'm getting a bunch of crap from my family. Like, we had to reschedule my whole wedding because of this. And he goes, they will quit giving you crap once you start getting paid to do this. And then, like, I made the games, and it was like, so Rich kind of gave me the motivation a little bit to like, dude, if you do well enough, then they'll leave you alone because it's not just working out anymore. It's like your job. So yeah, that happened, and I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, we're kind of going through your CrossFit career. So you missed the games. Was it
2015 and 16
by one spot?
So 15, I missed by 2 spots. I had a broken first rib at regionals in 2015.
It's up here?
Like that little like divot between your like trap and your collarbone. That's like your first rib right there. So I cracked it doing a power clean maybe 4 weeks out from regionals.
So what you get for cleaning so much, Will?
Yeah, right. It was only like 225, man. Like I caught it and it just popped, and I didn't know what had happened. And I went to see Dr. Elrod, who I'm sure you know. There's my elite plug. And
HIPAA violation?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah, and my first rib was cracked. So I did the whole regional with a broken first rib and ended up missing by 2 spots. Probably could have executed a little better. But then in 16, I missed by 1 spot, which ended up being like 1 point something seconds. I lost, like, I had to win the last workout to get my spot to the games, and I got second.
Oh.
And it was by like a second and a half. Like I was like Scott beat me, and like we ran to the finish line like that, and that was it. Where if I would have beat him, I would have gone.
Dang, man.
Yeah. So that, I mean, another disappointing like near miss, but that's sports. So I was pretty tore up about that year. And then I trained really, really hard leading into the 2017 season. I went down to Wadapalooza, which is kind of, it's like the big event before the Open in the old structure of the sport. So the CrossFit Games Open in the past was, you know, you qualify for regionals from there, and then you qualify from the games. And there was a couple off-season events where like the pros would go and kind of like get their competitive, like knock off the rust, because there wasn't as many opportunities to compete in 2017.
Right.
So I was getting ready for Wadapalooza. It was going great. I went there, finished day 1. I was feeling kind of sick, just not myself after day 1. I actually woke up like Saturday morning at like 3 a.m. after the first day of competing, and woke my wife up because she's a nurse. And I was like, hey, like, I feel like my back's on fire. Like I felt like somebody was pressing like irons into my lower back.
Crazy.
And I'd had back injuries in the past, like just like discs and stuff, which is kind of nervy. And my wife was like, maybe it's just like your back pain. And I kind of convinced myself that that was it. And I went back to sleep. I woke up at 7 that Saturday morning and like made some coffee, took a sip, and immediately went to the bathroom and like started vomiting. And this is not normal. And my wife, being a medical professional, was like, this is not normal. Like, you need to go to the hospital. And being a stubborn athlete, I called my coach. I'm like, hey man, this is the situation. I want to compete if I can. And he's like, dude, you need to go to the doctor. Like, this is not normal. When have you ever like taken a sip of coffee and started throwing up and feeling terrible? So I went, and I was in renal failure, which is kidney failure, which is crazy. So this was January 2017. I spent a week in the hospital. It was acute kidney failure caused by, you know, too much Advil, which NSAIDs and Advil and things like that, like, cut your kidney function. So I was taking way too much of that, just trying to like cover up my back pain and all the joint pain that I had. Probably too much protein in my diet. I wasn't working with a nutritionist at the time and just kind of doing it by feel.
Is there such thing as too much protein?
Yeah, right? I guess. I mean, my doctor definitely said there was. Now I work with a nutritionist. But yeah, so probably too much protein because it's hard on your kidneys. Not enough hydrating, and probably training too much because you become kind of neurotic about training when you work out for a living.
Sure.
Which is not necessarily normal, but it's part of the job. So that happened. I started, getting better after spending 6 days in the hospital. Dang. And at that time, the doctor was like, hey, let's take a biopsy of your kidney. Let's see if there's anything going on because you're 27. You're supposed to be one of the fittest dudes in the world. This shouldn't have happened. So he took a biopsy, and the pathology report came back clean, but there was, he said, signs that I had this autoimmune disorder called IgA nephropathy, which is a progressive kidney disease that you're born with, and what it progresses at different rates for different people, but you could go into renal failure in, a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years. It just depends. And they were like, look, you need to probably step back from being a pro athlete because that's inherently tough on your kidneys because of the muscle breakdown and stuff that you incur, especially in CrossFit where it's just like excessive training. So I was sitting in the hospital, like kind of at the peak of my career. My wife was there. My whole life kind of flashed before my eyes. And I was kind of like, man, maybe it's not super important for me to put so much into this sport if it's going to kill me. My love of my life's right there. You know what I mean? Like there's more to life than this. And I think that was a big change for me. And I've taken that lesson into my second opportunity. So anyways, I stepped away from the sport completely. Jeez. I sold my gym, CrossFit Rigged. And like God willing, one of my members was a very successful businessman, Mike Rustasy, gave me a job. He's like, even before this, he was like, when you're done competing, I want you to come work for me as a consultant. Like, wow. Just like talking to people and whatever. He just saw something in me. So he gave me a job, and I worked in tech sales. Yeah, man, a little bit of a shift for about 8 months. And through that time, I was seeing my nephrologist monthly, getting blood work because, like when you get out of the hospital after a renal crisis, I guess you'd call it, you're not back to 100%. Like it takes time for your body to heal, because when I was there, I was in like really bad shape. I had like 14% kidney function or something. Jeez. So when I left, I was only to like 50% kidney function, but it's like muscle soreness. You might be sore today, but you'll get better tomorrow, and you'll just like soon the soreness will kind of go away. So I was getting blood work every month, and finally I was back to normal for like 4 months, like really perfect health. And I wasn't really training at that time. I would do lifting a little bit, and I was working 9 to 5, consulting on e-learning.
Nice.
We built custom e-learning courses for corporations.
Plug.
Yikes. So I've forgotten everything already, so I can't help you. But so it was August of 2018. August or early September. I went to my nephrologist. I'd been feeling great. I hadn't been doing CrossFit, just lifting, which is snatching and clean and jerk. Just lifting heavy because I like
Olympic lifting for you newbies out there.
Yeah. I just like to do that, right? So I went back to my nephrologist, and he's like, hey, man, let me take a look at your pathology report. Like, you're completely normal. They had put me on blood pressure medicine, all this stuff, and I had been telling him for about 4 months, like, this blood pressure medicine is making me feel horrible. Like, luckily I worked remotely from my tech job, so like 2 o'clock would come around every day, and I would just be like completely exhausted.
Wow.
It's probably because my blood pressure was like on the floor, so I'd like have to take a nap, which was very weird, from like my background.
As like a 28-year-old.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So anyways, he took a look at it, and he's like, look, dude, I don't think you have IgA nephropathy. And I was just kind of like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, like there's no signs of it.
Hey, I wanted to stop and tell you guys about a product that I'm really, really excited about. If you guys don't know, I sweat a ton, and it kind of grosses Shawn out. And so together we've been looking for a new deodorant that can solve that problem for really both of us. And so that's why I'm so excited that I came across Native. Native is a deodorant that's formulated without aluminum, parabens, or talc, and it's filled with ingredients found in nature, such as coconut oil, shea butter, and tapioca starch. Native never tests on animals, and there's free shipping and returns on all your orders. So trust me, making the switch to an aluminum-free deodorant doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice on product performance. Again, I work out for probably an hour and a half every day. I sweat a ton, and Native truly passes the test. I encourage you to try it out yourself. Also, I'm not the only one who loves Native. There's over 9,000 five-star reviews, and you can check them out on the Today Show, Elle Magazine, and Pop Sugar, just to name a few. Native comes in a wide variety of enticing scents for men and women, plus they release new limited edition seasonal scents throughout the year. They also offer an unscented formula and baking soda free formula for those with sensitivity. My personal favorite scent is the eucalyptus and mint. It makes me feel like I just got out of the spa, and you guys should try it out. It's no risk to you. They offer free returns and exchanges within the USA. So if you guys want to try out Native and get 20% off your first purchase, visit nativedeodorant.com and use promo code EAST during checkout. Again, for 20% off your first purchase, go to nativedeodorant.com and use code EAST during checkout. There's also a link down below if you guys want to check it out. I also want to tell you about something else. It's what you've always dreamed of. You've started your own business. You have no boss. You are the boss. You are the CEO. Oh my gosh, no one told you there would be so much admin work. Reality check, running your business is hard, but HoneyBook makes it easy. HoneyBook is an online business management tool that organizes your client communications, bookings, contracts, and invoices all in one place. It's perfect for freelancers, entrepreneurs, or small business owners that want to consolidate services that they already use, like QuickBooks, Google Suite, Excel, and MailChimp. With HoneyBook, you can automate your busy work. They have easy-to-use templates for emails, proposals, brochures, and invoices. They also have e-signatures and built-in automation to save you time and get you paid faster. Simplify your to-do list and stay in control with HoneyBook. And right now, HoneyBook is offering redirected listeners 50% off when you visit honeybook.com/east. Payment is flexible, and this promotion applies whether you pay monthly or annually. So go to honeybook.com/EAST for 50% off your first year. That's honeybook.com/east.
You can return to sport if you want. Unless you like your corporate job, which that's great. Just, you're healthy. Just know that you're healthy, and kind of you can make the choice for how you want your life to be lived from now on, and just be a little bit more aware of your diet, how much you're training. If you do decide to do that, like hydrate, get blood work every 6 months or every year at least, just to make sure you're on track and you're good. So I called my wife on the way back because she's always like, how'd the doctor visit go? Because I stressed the crap out of her, like I was like really, really sick in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, this is what Dr. Shawn just told me.
Dang.
And she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm going to call Max and I'm going to kind of tell him, hey man, I don't have this. I was pretty comfortable in my corporate gig. Like I was just kind of getting the flow and, good pay, good benefits. The American dream, right?
Yeah.
You got a 401k now and all this awesome stuff. So I ended up leaving that job in February of 2018. Before that, in January 2018, Max had so after I got that diagnosis or that misdiagnosis confirmation in August, I started training a little bit harder, but I was still working. I would just start to do CrossFit incrementally, just seeing how I progressed and how my body tolerated it. And I kind of had to get over a little bit of PTSD because my body would feel that pain. And there's a part of a workout where you're like, I can either go or I can throttle back. And I had gone through so much trauma, with the kidney failure, that when I felt that, my initial reaction was like, dude, just chill. Something in me was like, that's just too aggressive. Just chill out a little bit. So it took time to get comfortable competing at the highest level again, or what I thought, it would take to get back to the top of the sport. So I was training was going fine. And Noah and Travis Mayer, who are both two buddies of mine, both games athletes, were going to do Wadapalooza as a team. And they were like, hey man, come be on a team with us. It was teams of 3. And I was like, guys, I haven't been training. I know, Will from 2016 was games athlete, one of the best guys. I'm corporate America, Will. Now, it's different, but they don't really get it, right? So they were like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. you're going to be with us. We'll be good. So we ended up getting second, which is okay. Like, we wanted to win. But that kind of spurred the comeback.
Wow.
Because I was kind of like, okay, like I can still compete a little bit, even though it was a team. It just felt good to be back under the lights, you know, at a big event. So 2018, I did the Open, but I was kind of not really
right.
Like right after that event, that's when I kind of left my corporate job and started coaching people full time. And I got a couple endorsements back, and I had a career in CrossFit again. So left that. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me jut in here, because when I first read about your renal failure, I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. He had eye problems. You know, you got your iris and your renal and your but then I realized it was the retina.
The retina, yes.
But I was reading up on this IgA nephropathy.
Yeah. Nephrology is like the study of the kidney, I guess.
Gotcha.
So
it's the most common disease in the world. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I believe it's the most commonly diagnosed kidney disease. World.
And I was reading up on it. It was like, symptoms are like heart abnormalities and sudden death. I was like, what the heck, dude? What? That is nuts. Like that's the type of stuff that you're like, what? That's no joke.
Well, yeah, like, so your kidneys they contribute to everything. And I didn't really know that. I thought it was like your heart and your lungs and your brain, but like your kidneys are a part of that. You know, They're that important. If you have low kidney function, your blood pressure goes up. You can have cardiac issues. All these things. So yeah, it was a serious situation, and I had to make huge lifestyle changes. Like, I changed my whole diet. I was on blood pressure medicine. I stopped drinking coffee completely.
Is that a pumpkin spice latte, by the way?
Yeah, pumpkin spice. Yeah. It's almost October, so I figured it's never too early.
Okay.
So yeah, man, just a bunch of lifestyle changes. No salt, because that affects your blood pressure. Like, and like I said, being so young and having to like change my whole lifestyle, that I was getting a bunch of like confirmation that it was okay in the past, and being told that it wasn't. I changed everything. Yeah, it was scary, dude.
Yeah.
But
so when you weren't doing CrossFit, your wife fully supportive? Like, I can imagine post my athletic career, like I was in this funk. You mentioned you were taking like 2 o'clock naps. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine how supportive she was through all of that, you know?
Yeah, I can't even really describe how important that was. It was just something that was unchanging in such a chaotic time in my life.
Yeah.
It was something that was just steadfast. And, you know, Cass we were high school sweethearts. Like, I started dating her when I was 16. So we've kind of grown together. And then that was like no time off. Like, we were together the whole time. So some people are like high school sweethearts, but they like break up or whatever in college. Like, we went to the same college, everything. So we've just been through a lot together, and she knows me. So like, when this happened, it was just kind of like, all right, she kind of kept me focused. She was my support person. Anything I decided to do, like, she was like, you're taking a job in corporate America? Okay, great. Like, I support you. You're going to figure it out. And then when I was like, hey, I think I'm going to leave this like cushy job and go back into the sport world that's not guaranteed anything.
Wow.
She was 100% on board, and that's rare, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, she's awesome.
As was Mowgli, the big King Corso.
Yeah, the big King Corso. He was definitely there, sleeping on the couch through all the issues.
So you mentioned 2018, you weren't really like fully in competitive mode. 2019, though, I mean, this is like, we're like right here. Yeah. This is your year back. You make it to the games. Well, walk us through what the process was like once you got fully back into it.
Fully back into it, it was probably right around the games in 2018 that I didn't make it. Yeah. Training was going really well. I broke my wrist.
Come on, bro.
Dude, so let's really go down this rabbit hole. So I broke my wrist in August, mountain biking, which I sold my mountain bike.
Nashville has some good trails, though.
I know, man. Yeah, I'm just not very good at it. So I went over the handlebars, broke my wrist. So I was really out rehabbing my wrist until December of 2018. And then I was like, oh, crap. Like, I got to start qualifying for sanctioned events if I want to make this happen. So January came around. I did the Mid-Atlantic qualifier, made it. Did the Brazil qualifier, made it. Did the Iceland qualifier, made it. Then did the French qualifier, made it. And I was like, okay, cool. At least I have.
Wait, did you need to do all those if you made it on one?
Yeah, well, like if I didn't win MAC or Mid-Atlantic,
Yeah.
then I don't go to the games.
Wow.
Because I didn't qualify through the Open.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
your top 20 make it, and I finished like 70th in the world or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, the Open like traditionally hasn't been, or historically hasn't been, like my strongest suit. Is that because people kind of screw with their videos and don't do reps all like,
Whoa,
yeah, hey, it's true, man.
yeah.
I mean, you saw the whole thing with that dude who like had crappy reps and made top 20 in the world. So
Oh my gosh.
I'm a game day guy. Like if it's in-person competition, I just like that better because there's more stress than like working out in the comfort of your gym.
Yeah.
And it's like being a real competitor. So I didn't make it from the Open, but I was like, I have to take as many opportunities as I can to get a spot to the games, because that was my goal for the year, was to compete at as many sanctioned events as I could and then hopefully get a spot to the games. And that was it.
Which, by the way, it's an aggressive goal, dude. To make the games is so hard to do. It is so hard to do. Probably harder now than it's ever been, A, because of the new structure, B, because there's so many more people doing it now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a huge goal, but I don't know. It just has never felt like out of reach. I don't know.
Well, you're a freak athlete. So
It's just that comes off as like cocky, but I don't know. That's just not how I was. Never in my head like this is impossible. Which I try to be super like objective about my athletic pursuits and not be a dreamer. Because I have to, like, the people I coach, I try to be really objective with them and be like, look, I think this is what is attainable. And I think having realistic expectations of yourself is important just as a human. Because otherwise you're just going to be like perpetually disappointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so like just try to be real with yourself. And maybe I had that perspective change when like I was so sick and my whole life got turned upside down. But yeah, so I made it to all those sanctioned events, which was awesome. And I went to Mid-Atlantic. I was leading the whole weekend. I bombed out. This was my first competition back, like as an individual, since I got sick. So that was like, there was a lot of nerves and just, man, you're back on the floor. Like, this is it. This is happening. I ended up getting third. I kind of bombed on Sunday. And I talked to Max, and he kind of gave me some tough love. He's like, look, man, you didn't execute well on the XYZ. Like and I thought I had done well. And he kind of like brought me back down. And I was like, all right, like like I said, you have to be objective. And I was like, I just want to improve in Iceland. Just whatever that means. I just want to pick out 5-6 things that I didn't execute well at Mid-Atlantic, improve those. And then that should yield better results in Iceland. And that was like getting my nutrition more dialed in, making sure I was like, everything was just perfect throughout my game day routine, which Cass is a massive part of that for me.
Cool.
She like cooks for me when we're on the road. Jamie Free does my nutrition. He sent everything over. She follows that perfectly. Like, she comes back in the warm-up area with me, make sure like I'm timing my nutrition the right time. She'll like work on my forearms or my legs or something after an event if I'm messed up.
Whoa.
Like, it's huge. And we dialed all that in. Iceland went great. It was different than MAC, where I was like winning the whole time. I had to kind of fight back at Iceland, and I ended up finishing third again. Come full circle, the guy who got second was on steroids and failed, so I would have gotten my ticket to the games from Iceland. And that didn't come out till like 8 weeks after, till I had won Brazil. So that was really disappointing. I missed by one spot again. And I was like, oh crap. It was like, okay, like this sucks. I was like really beat up about it because being so close to the ultimate goal again.
Right.
But I had 10 days or something till I had to compete again. So that was kind of reassuring. So then I went down to Miami right after Iceland, like straight from Iceland. I flew to Miami to stay with Noah, trained for a little bit. He was getting ready for Rogue. I was getting ready for Brazil. That's that video you saw, the Silly Willy one.
Oh, I got you.
That was right before Brazil. We were actually testing a Brazil workout.
The row swim?
Yeah, that was like the first workout in Brazil. He just did it with me because there was no Rogue events released. So went to Brazil, ended up winning, and As far as like improving every event, I kind of did that, which was crazy. Like I got 3rd at MAC, 2nd in Iceland, 1st in Brazil. And it was like, okay, like you're kind of ticking off checklists and being very methodical about why you're doing it, and you know why you're doing it. That's the biggest thing. I think people have great success, but they're not conscious of why they're being successful. So I credit that to Max and my wife hugely, just keeping me accountable and like making me be mindful of why we're doing what we're doing and why it's working. So games came around and I didn't really have any other goal but to podium, because that's kind of how the season was going. I was excited to be back to the games because I was expecting maybe that like there was going to be this huge like emotional experience when I made it back, because it'd been such a long road since 2014 with all these different like life shaping things. And it just didn't happen. I don't know. And it's not like I expected it to happen, or I don't know that I wanted this huge emotional, like, oh my God, I made it back. But, I don't know. It was like I finished Brazil, and now the games are the next thing, and let's podium there. And
wow,
the games went well. I can't help but be a little disappointed with how it finished, which is just like probably maybe, I don't know what the word is for that, but I was in 5th place, maybe a little better. And then I like had that partial tear in my hamstring, and that like, you can't compete at the highest level of sport with a torn muscle in your hamstring. So like
that happened during the little bag race,
the final of the sprint.
Dude, I remember
event,
watching that,
which was like my bread and butter.
There it is.
Yeah, man. Like that was probably if there was one event and I was like, I'm going to win that was it. And I was poised to do it, like, but you know, it happens. So
to your credit though, I remember watching it and you finished with a smile on your face. And then that night, I think, was the power cleans.
Yeah.
And you just stood up to the bar. You literally looked around and you smiled.
That was maybe the worst moment of my athletic career. Like,
really? Dude, you handled it extremely well.
That was tough. Like, yeah, like what was I going to do? I knew if I tried to clean that, it'd probably fully rupture my hamstring. And it's like, your whole next season's over. And look, dude, you're 30. If you can stay healthy, like you can probably do this for another 5 years. If you have a huge setback now, like, are you going to, I've had so many setbacks. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I can bounce back, but that's a major injury. Yeah. If you like tear your hamstring off the bone. So I was like, I'm not pulling. I couldn't even touch my toes. You know what I mean?
Jeez,
so,
man. Oh gosh, the hamstring.
You know how it feels?
Yeah.
So I did as best as I could. I did the workout right after the sprint event was the 5 rounds of 1 pegboard, the 80-pound dumbbell, split jerks and split snatches.
You did that.
That's when I really felt my hamstring was bad. Like I popped it, and I tore my right hamstring a little bit worse than this one, sprinting.
Jeez.
Playing flag football like an idiot, like the mountain bike accident.
You've said it yourself a couple times, but I feel like
I like to go play sports and stuff. So I'm learning now. Yeah. But yeah, so I really felt it there. Like I did my first split jerk with the 80. I did a little bit in warm-ups and it felt okay. Like the hinging kind of hurt because it was a higher hamstring tear. And then I got out there and started to like rip my first one, and I was like, man, this is not good. So I kind of just muscled through that. I was doing like strict snatches, that 80-pound dumbbell. My arms were just messed up on one leg. And then the clean, there was no way. Dave actually grabbed me. Dave Castro is like director of the games after. He's like, what happened? I'm like, dude,
you hadn't let anybody know. That was, I was kind of surprised by that because you had a little combo. They showed it on TV, and it was like, surely they know.
Yeah, so he grabbed me right after the sprint and said, how bad's your leg? And I was like, I don't know yet. Like, it doesn't feel too bad right now. And he was like, okay. So I was like, okay. So I did the clean event, or the dumbbell event, and that's when I kind of knew it was going to be an issue. Yeah. And then I went to like hinge, like I was going to do a clean, and there was no way. So I talked to Max, and I'm like, look, dude, I'm not going to attempt 315. Like, that's a relatively just routine weight for me. I probably would have hit like 355, maybe 365 on that event, healthy. And I was like, man, if you do this, you're out. And that's just not worth it for me.
Good call, honestly.
And there was no minimum work requirement. So I just went out there and stood there in my walk of shame in front of the whole CrossFit community. That stadium's pretty cool. But, like, I just didn't know what to do. So I kind of, like, clapped for the crowd. Like,
no, I honestly, I was really impressed with how you handled that.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how frustrating that was, especially you were in striking position. But, you stood up there and you smiled, you know?
Yeah,
you looked around, you're like, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
I'm out here, the whole CrossFit community and globally, I'm assuming whoever's watching the games is watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could sit out there and pout, or you can just, like, that's me though. Like,
Good for you.
kind of got to take it in stride. And I kind of battled through the rest of the weekend. I knew I wasn't going to be able to perform. I was like at 20%, you know, I got one leg. So,
Wow.
yeah, we ended up finishing 10th, and
Congrats.
yeah.
That is so massive. I realize I casually do CrossFit, and I just like am highly impressed by that.
Oh, thank you.
You studied exercise science, and you had this kidney thing, which was related to the workout that you did that day, or no?
Yeah, so I think it was probably a progressive thing. Like, I was taking Advil every day because I had this back thing. I was probably drinking way too much protein and overtraining. So if I were to probably have gotten blood work like the week before Wadapalooza when I had the incident, it probably would have shown signs.
Yeah.
But that kind of just that's what put me over the edge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I studied exercise science at Belmont. And
What do you say to the people who are anti-CrossFit because they say it's too hard on your body, or
Yeah, I think CrossFit as a training methodology is completely fine. That's if you're just doing it, 3 or 4 days a week in a class with a good coach who knows what they're doing for programming and knows how to adjust the workouts. But people who kind of discount CrossFit's efficacy, or if it's too dangerous or whatever that is, it doesn't make sense to me, because CrossFit is just fitness.
Yeah.
It's just a trademark name. So, like, CrossFit runs a lot. Like, what about runners? They're doing CrossFit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of weird when that question comes up, because it's just fitness. And
sorry for asking.
Nah, I mean, people are just getting tired, right?
Yeah.
Like they like,
that's well said.
Yeah,
well said,
you know
honestly.
what I mean? So I think as long as people are enjoying whatever fitness realm that they're in, like, that's the biggest thing. And that's kind of what the idea is with CrossFit. Like, everybody, there's this big community push, and everybody pushes that about CrossFit. Oh, the community's great. But, like, I've seen great communities in the cycling community. I've seen great communities in the boot camp community, or whatever you want to hit, or whatever they call it. So yeah, as long as, like, you see good progress that you want. I'm a little biased towards CrossFit, but CrossFit as a sport is a lot different than CrossFit as just a regular training regimen. Like, what I do, I don't recommend for health. But if you're wanting to go to the CrossFit Games, it's kind of necessary.
Important differentiation there. Huh?
Yeah, it's like flag football and NFL football. Like, you're not studying your flag football playbook and, like, stressing out about it and having coaches meetings or whatever, but, like, they're having fun with it. So
yeah.
That's the big thing. Just make sure you enjoy what you're doing, if fitness is something enjoyable for you.
Yeah. Say I want to make it to the CrossFit Games. What is the training regimen require, and will you be my coach?
Yeah, I'll definitely coach you. What's it require? I don't know. It depends. It's different for everybody. Like, we probably have different training needs. Not anybody's the same. So I think the biggest thing, if you're aspiring to be a CrossFit Games athlete or whoever is, get with a coach who knows how to evaluate you. Make sure that their personality aligns with yours. It's one that you can respect, because you could have a coach that is the most amazing mind in the world and just has a dull personality, and you're probably this, like, outgoing extrovert, and that might not be a good blend, even if he's giving you the perfect recipe for success. So I think if you want a coach, which I think is good, even if you don't call him a coach, just like a programmer or someone you can bounce ideas off of, that you vibe well. Because if there's not a mutual respect, and you don't reach your goal, then there might be some animosity or whatever it is. So
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there just needs to be like a really good marriage of coach, athlete, and a mutual respect. So consistency is the biggest thing. I tell everybody I work with, how many different ways can you do a thruster? How many different ways can you program a muscle up or double unders, whatever it is? Like, the fitness is fitness, but if the CrossFit Games is the goal, but you need, and there's a lot of volume that you have to do, and you have to have a certain amount of like relative skill to get to that point. But if you can be consistent every day and you can trust in whatever process it is, then you'll get the most out of that, and hopefully that's the CrossFit Games. But I think genetics and like predisposition has a huge role in actually getting to the tip of sport. Because you could take any guy who's 6'3", 200 something pounds and try to turn him into an NFL athlete, but some guys will, and some guys will get really close and won't make it, and some guys are just like, dude, you don't even know how to tie your shoes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that definitely plays a role. But I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that's good. That's really insightful. I like how you talk about, even you just said it now, if you want to be a CrossFit Games athlete, and you said this in one of your interviews that I was listening to, you said like gym CrossFit and competitive CrossFit are way different things. Anyway, I think to your credit, I think you talk about it really clearly. And I think that's important when, like, you know, people are discussing, oh, I don't like CrossFit. Well, what do you mean by that? Anyway.
Yeah, what's it mean?
Also, so recently, did you hear this news about Andrew Luck?
Yeah.
I'm curious. I talked to Noah about this, and I'm probably biased because I played football my whole life. But, like, you know, he kind of experienced this burnout mentally. I think was a big part of it. Obviously, he had some physical. But I was talking with Noah about the reason I like CrossFit is because, like, it has taught me so much and pushed me so much to do some physical things with my body that I never experienced before. I'm sure you get to a level where you're doing these movements. Like, I learned gymnastics. I'd never done that before in my life. And I was like, this is so much fun. Yeah. Like, I'm doing handstands and I've never done that before. Is there a point that you get to in CrossFit that you're burnt out, or is it so diversified that, like, it kind of keeps you intrigued? You know what I'm saying? At your level, is there that mental strain? I
don't know that I've felt burnout. And my journey through the sport has been different than Noah's, right? So I was probably on a crash course to being burnout, how much I stressed about competition before I had the kidney thing. Afterwards, now it's like, man, you have a second chance. So, like, addressing the burnout thing, like, I felt it more in my soccer career than I did with CrossFit because I had this massive injury and now have this new appreciation for something that I truly love. And that's kind of what my journey has showed me. Right. I love the sport, and unfortunately I had to step away from it and have this nasty injury to really figure out, like, that's really, like, this is what I love to do. And I've been blessed with the ability to express it at the highest level, God willing. So yeah, like in soccer, I definitely felt burnout. And I can, I guess, kind of empathize with Andrew Luck's situation, because having injuries year after year after year, and I mean, I can't imagine the type of stress it is to be an NFL quarterback, right? That's a highly competitive and stressful job. It's probably one of the most stressful jobs in the world. Right? So, and he just looked tired in that interview. Like, man, like, he does not want to be here. Now, he's 29, and is he going to heal? Yeah, I think he's going to heal. Right. I think his mind probably needs to heal first, but it'd be cool to see him come back. Like, he's sick. I don't know that much about the NFL, but he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league from my understanding.
Yeah, he was like just on the peak of his career, I think.
Yeah, 29, like, you're right there. Like, this is it. You should be killing it. So you've mentioned this change of perspective a couple times. Is there anything you feel like, is there any wisdom you feel like you could share, say, with 2016 Will, pre-incident Will, that would have sparked that change of perception without having to actually have the incident? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, yeah, man, that's tough. Like, I feel like I'm
take
like
it for granted, or
baptism of fire kind of guy. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
you gotta go through it.
I gotta go through it. I'm stubborn.
Yeah.
unfortunately, it took something like that. If I was going to tell myself in 2016, hey man, look, you have all this ability, but you're burning the candle at both ends. Like, you're not taking care of your body as much as you should. The biggest thing I would say is get on a nutrition plan and follow it, and get blood work done regularly, because I'm kind of an evidence-based mind. Like, if these are the values that my body needs to be at to perform at peak level, like, and it doesn't match up, then I want to make the adjustments because it's going to make my performance better. So maybe I just tell them to go to the doctor, like go get a physical every year.
Yeah,
and that, I mean, that's not like much wisdom. I mean, it's just kind of, you're a pro athlete. You need to take care of your vehicle. This provides for your family. So like, take care of it. Don't just assume because you're young and you can work out all day long that that's sustainable. But yeah, I think I needed that. And I think I was maybe too young. 26 like isn't like super young, but for me, maybe I'm a late bloomer. Like, my ability to accept where I was in my life and what was actually going on, just like, and how to make the most of it. It just took me a little bit longer to really get control, if you can have control of your life. Probably. I mean, it took me that long to stabilize the ship. You know what I mean? There's always gonna be rough waters if you want to like go down that road. But
you're getting deep all of a sudden.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm trying to use like some type of analogy. I'm getting out there, but yeah. So I don't know if I could like really.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I would change it. You know, I learned a lot of good from it. Maybe I would have made the games a few more times in those years that I took off, but whatever.
You got time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what goals do you have now, career-wise, on a personal level? What are your
Yeah. So the next 5 years, I think making the games every year would kind of be the massive goal. I want to win the games. I think this year, barring injury, I probably would have ended up on the podium or would have pushed for a spot on the podium based on the subset of tests that came out. So I want to push for the podium again. And every time I compete, whether that's at the CrossFit Games or a sanctioned event, I want to win. And that self-belief is something that's really started to like come out in the past year, which takes time. Some people have it, some people don't. Even like the best in the world have self-doubt, you know, and I'm starting to just really believe in my ability. So just to keep growing that confidence. And outside of that, I train with a lot of people that aspire to be CrossFit athletes. And I have friends that play pro sports. Like I feel like if I can help them, you know, understand why they're doing what they're doing and enjoy the process. If I can help expedite the mindset that I've gained in the past year, and they don't have to have that baptism of fire and go through all of it, if I can kind of just help mold them into this just really confident person in their sport or whatever their life pursuit is, that's something I want to do. I just want to have a positive impact on people, because I kind of like have a platform in the fitness industry to shed light on more than just CrossFit. It's more of like a lifestyle. And of course, like I want to be a really high achieving athlete, but I also want to be a good guy in the sport and someone who, like, at events, there's younger athletes who are at these sanctioned events. They might not make the games for a few years, but if I can be like, hey man, they look a little stressed out in the warm up area, like go talk to them. Go be like, hey man, you're like, just enjoy it. Like, this is really cool. This is an awesome experience. Be in the moment, and you're going to go out there and try your hardest no matter what. So like the result's the result. I see a lot of young athletes at these events. They're like so stressed out. And I was that guy, right? And it wasn't fun, and that's not sustainable. So I made a point at MAC and at Iceland and at Brazil to just get to know the guys I was competing against, and kind of like, you can almost control the vibe in the warm-up area, if you know what I mean.
You have that sway. You do, definitely.
And it's just like it feels better to me, and I think it helps calm everybody down and like have like this is cool, man. Even at the tip of the spear, it's a little bit different at the games, but everybody there is pretty dialed. So, but at these other events, you know, just have a positive impact on people.
Do you enjoy the coaching side of things or athlete side of things better?
That's tough. They're both really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool, obviously, to compete at the highest level. And, you know, like being on that stage is something that you can't compare anything else to in life. But helping people reach their goals is another thing that's really, it's close to it. You know, like if I'm coaching you and you end up, your goal is to make a sanctioned event and you do that. And it's like, you're part of that person's journey.
Yeah.
And you can see how much joy that brings somebody. That's pretty special too. And I made a couple professional goals last year when I was coming off the broken wrist, and I was really more coach than athlete at that time because I just couldn't train as much. I was like, I want to get one of my athletes to qualify for a sanctioned event, and I want to qualify for a sanctioned event as well, because I don't know that there's anybody in the sport
that's crazy.
did both. And I had 5 qualifiers, 3 athletes, and between them they qualified for 5.
What?
Which was so cool.
Jeez.
And that was like so cool to me, just to help them. I didn't put in the work, like they're putting in the work, they're consistent in their training, but they trusted me, and that was a pretty big responsibility when it's like, when you're competing in CrossFit, that's your lifestyle. So you're kind of like helping them shape what their lives look like, and they have families and kids and things like that, and you're like kind of controlling their life a little bit. And when they get to that, when they reach that goal, that's really special. So that almost felt a little better the first time it happened than like me making it to my sanctioned event. Maybe because I have this jaded expectation, like I need to make every goal I set, but that was really cool. So right now, I'm probably a little bit more in the athlete realm personally, just because I've dropped my clientele volume a little bit, so I can focus more on training.
Yeah.
And not have the quality of my coaching drop. So I'm definitely like pursuing being an athlete a little bit more heavily than growing my coaching business, but I can definitely see that shift as my career starts to wind down in the next 5 years. Like, being a coach is so rewarding, and just you get to know these people on a personal level, which I enjoy, because the thing people are like, CrossFitters are crazy, all they think about is working out, and that's kind of true. And you can kind of help people balance. And if you can find balance, then usually your training like goes through the roof.
Wow.
And you're probably more satisfied with how your life is as a whole. So, yeah.
Dude, you shared some awesome wisdom here. I'm curious if you could share 3 takeaways that you've learned over your journey that could apply to the audience. What would those be? 3
things. So, from a professional standpoint, just in whatever you're doing, know why you're doing it, and know what your goals are for your life that make you happy. And if all those things tick off, then you're probably doing what you want to do. So just understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and be passionate about it and believe in it. Because some people have these successful careers, but those boxes are empty. Like, their personal life could be so empty. They're like, what they're investing into their families or just their life outside of work is empty. And life's better when that's balanced. All those buckets are kind of full, or as full as they can be. Balance, I guess. From like, if people are pursuing professional athletics, I think finding a mentor that you trust, and something where they enrich your life. Like, if you can have somebody who's done it before, surround yourself with those people, because it's hard to do it on your own, in sport especially. Like, I'm sure there's some great mentors in the NFL. Like, if you're a rookie in the league, go find a vet and learn from them. Same thing, if you're like a rookie at the games, go find a vet and learn from them, because making it once is one thing, but repeating that success over and over and over is really hard to do, if that's the career pattern you want. So, finding a good mentor, having life balance. 3rd one, this is tough. The 3rd one, I guess, I don't know.
You can take your time.
The 3rd one, piece of advice. have other passions, have other pursuits in life than one thing, right? So maybe that comes with balance, I guess. Balance is probably the overarching theme here, but don't put all, like, if we'll just stay in the sport realm, like if you want to be a pro CrossFitter, don't like be able to step away from CrossFit. And for me, a big part of learning how to step away was going and hanging out with my friends that don't do CrossFit. Like, I have a big friend group, but when I was young in my CrossFit career, I just was so obsessed and I didn't really branch out. And like a bunch of my buddies from college were around. I just didn't see them as much. So I've made a point to like be able to shut down that part of my brain, because it's like it's work and it's two work, right? I coach and I'm an athlete at a high level. So it's like, that's a lot. So like spend time with my wife. She doesn't want to always talk about CrossFit. Like take my dog for a walk, go hang out with my buddies. If they're out at a bar, like just go hang out. You don't have to drink. Like unfortunately I just can't do that, right? Just because of training. But be able to shut down that part of your brain and just appreciate being a human. Like Nashville's a cool place. If you're local to Nashville and you're trying to be a pro CrossFitter, like get out of the gym and go see some cool stuff. Like go see live music, go hike, whatever it is, Radnor Lake. Like that's another thing. So I guess balance is probably the overarching thing. Yeah. And that's something that I try to pursue all the time. It's hard, especially when like you're training for the CrossFit Games. You can't really be that balanced, but as long as you remind yourself to just get back to level, at least before you go to bed, you know, that's something to try and strive for, I guess.
That's really good, man. Well, I appreciate you spending this last hour with us.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Has anybody ever told you you look like Roger Federer?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I also miss the flow, man. You used to have
I
the
chopped
flow.
it off.
Come
now
on,
I have
dude.
like the hipster cut. Roger's been stressing me out. I'm a Roger fan.
Yeah, dude. I've been watching
like
the
dropping the first set and then winning 3. The slow starts, but I think he'll come through.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, it was great to meet you,
Yeah,
and
thanks, man.
and we'll talk about CrossFit after this. But anyway.